Hi, I'm Mara Webster with In Creative Company, and today we're joined by the wonderful Eli Golden to talk all about his movie 13, the musical. And I wanted to start by asking you a little bit about the audition process and kind of what that entailed, because obviously with it being a musical, I imagine it wasn't just about reading some of the scenes, but also then really seeing the full facet of your skill sets and what you could bring to this role musically as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. So the audition process, it was a longer audition process, one of the longer ones I've been in. And it started where actually in March of 2020, before the whole world went just absolutely crazy. It was the last audition I did. I went to the city and I didn't do well. And I was like, oh, I didn't really like how I did on that audition. So I came out and I was like, okay, too bad, to the next one. And we get another call for it in October, late October, early November for it. And we do it. I do it. And well, it was just after I got really close to another part, and I was really not happy with the Zoom auditions, and I was feeling a little like I couldn't portray my best acting. So I was in a tough spot. So I said to my mom, I don't want to do any of this anymore until I'm in person. And she comes down to me. She's like, "Hey, Eli's got a call for 13 again. Try out." And I said, I don't want to do it, Mom. I don't really want to do it. But she was like, "You're gonna be on set with kids, Jason Robert Brown, Tamara Davis, Neil Marin. These are really good names. These are really good people to be working with." So I said, okay. And then, one call back turned into two calls back. And then I'm on the phone with Georgia Stitt. And then I'm on the phone with Tamara and Jason. And then I'm doing chemistry reads. I'm on the last chemistry read. It was like an 8-hour day. And they said I could, all the Evans, all right, Evans, you can go. And they called my mom up. I hadn't eaten. I hadn't gone to the bathroom. So I'm like, and my mom was like, all right, give us 3 minutes. But I call my mom. They're like, hey, can we have him back on for 3 minutes? And they get me back on. We set up everything again. And Tamara's like, all right, look around, get to know everybody. Because you're looking at the cast of 13. And that was such an awesome, that was the best moment of my life, I think. One of them. So that was the audition process.
Yeah. I kind of love what you were saying at the beginning of that, though, about having that moment of doing an audition and kind of coming out of it and not necessarily feeling like you hit it in the way you wanted to, because in auditioning, that's inevitably going to happen from time to
Oh
time,
yeah. Oh, definitely. I've had
Yeah.
my horrible auditions. I've had the auditions where I've been like, wow, that was
Yeah.
the best audition I've ever done. It
Yeah.
it it fluctuates.
Mhm.
It's hard because sometimes you're not in the mood that day, sometimes you're not feeling good. It depends.
Yeah. And do you find that for that reason, do you sit with auditions after you leave the room, or do you find it easier just to kind of be like, okay, I went in there and I did the work and there's kind of nothing else I can do right now, and just kind of try to separate a little bit?
The latter one, definitely. I
Mhm.
try to I feel like if I sit on them, I sit on auditions that I've already done, then I'm gonna be so sad that I didn't get them. And I'll think about, I'll see whoever got it, be so happy to have it, and I just feel bad because I'm like, oh, I wish I had that. So I think all around, I let it go. I let it go. And me and my mom have this thing called the 100-foot rule, where we don't talk about how an audition went till we're 100 feet away from the place it happens, because you don't know who you're talking about it in front of. And my dad has a very funny story about that. So that's why I do that.
I kind of love that, and then obviously once you were cast in the role, then you're in that pre-production phase of kind of putting the character together and developing
Yeah,
him.
yeah.
What does that process and kind of journey look like you in playing Evan in this movie? What were kind of the main details that you felt you really had to figure out, or kind of choices that you wanted to make for your performance before you went
Yeah.
into filming?
Yeah. Well, I thankfully relate to Evan a lot more than I would relate to many other of my characters, because I'm a kid from New York and I have to go all the way to, Toronto and stay there for 5 months without any of my family, none of my friends. And I was stuck to my own devices. And I really, I, with him, New York to Indiana, small town, the new kid again, I really had to learn, how to kind of get around there. And I did at the end of it all. But how I prepared for him, whenever I'd have like, script or lines or anything like that, I would prop up my phone on my window where I was living at the time before, going on set the next day. And I would read the lines and I would watch the recordings, be like, oh, I want to do that better. Oh, I want to do that better. Oh, I want to do this better. Oh, I want to do that better. And there was times where I didn't have time to do it. I'd get home too late. And I just felt like it was what really made Evan, being able to just pop my phone and just like nitpick. at my acting and see, oh, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. Oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. Kind of all around learning what I want to do and what I don't want to do.
And with what you were saying as well about that experience that you could kind of carry into it, being away from home, making the project, being in a situation where you're around all sorts of new people, did that also really help when it came to developing a lot of the character relationships? Because again,
Yes.
outside of his mom, even his grandmom, he hasn't seen in years. So really it's only his parents and his rabbi that he has that backstory and that history with. And so did you kind of utilize the journey of getting to know the rest of the cast into the character as well?
Absolutely. Well, thankfully, me and Frankie, who plays Lucy, don't hate each other. We're very, very good friends. And Ella, yeah, I'm friends with everybody in the cast. I mean, I still talk with most of them to this day. And I really when it came to being in character for all of us, there was moments where we'd laugh, and there's moments where we'd be goofing off just before takes, but we kept it pretty professional. And I don't think really I took a whole lot of my friendship in real life with them and implemented it into the character. But I'm best friends with every single one of the cast. So it'd be hard to hate Frankie, and it would be hard to be mad at Ella, and it would be hard to not be mad at JD because I'm so close with them. So I feel like I took some moments from our relationships and definitely implemented them and kind of jumbled them up and put them into Evan. But for the most part, not really.
And it also felt really refreshing to watch a mother-son relationship in which, he's not blaming her for anything. He's not like, why did you drag me here? Why did we have to move here? There's not conflict between them. It really is a very sweet and loving relationship between the two of them. And so how did you and Deborah Messing work to kind of create that dynamic between your two characters?
Well, I mean, I think at the start, Evan is not happy with his mother, but me and Deborah, I learned something new from everything she did. No matter what, I learned something new each and every time I talked with her, and each and every time I did a scene with her. And being able to build that relationship and being able to actually have the real chemistry that we had, like that wasn't, Evan and Jessica, that was Deborah and Eli at some points. And there was moments where that was Eli and Josh, and there was moments where it was Eli and Peter. And all around it, I built up, I'm really close with all of them. So yeah.
And in the time kind of before you went into filming as well, with rehearsals, did you get much of a chance to kind of rehearse or dive into some of the more dialogue driven scenes? Or was it very much about focusing on elements like the choreography and the musical numbers? Because obviously there's so many intrinsic details coming into that.
Yeah, it was more about the music and choreography. We centered around that because that's what needed to be like on point. Because you can mess up your lines and still have the same scene, but you can't mess up the song, you can't mess up a note. Otherwise, that's not good. And there was moments where Tamara would take me, Ella, and Jonathan, or me, JD, Frankie, and Lindsay. Just some castmates or some crew all around, and we would rehearse scenes. And it was also, mind you, Canada during like the beginning of April and end of March is still snowing, so it was cold for the start of it. But once it got warmer, we started going out a lot more. We started really understanding the roles more and understanding how and really building character into it.
Yeah. And in terms of recording the musical numbers as well, it's not just a case of going in and singing a number and kind of hitting the right notes. It's also about what is the space that your character's in. And so how did you approach going into recording all of the musical numbers, knowing that it was also very much driven by your character in those moments?
That was challenging for me because I understood it's hard not having a camera in front of your face. And it's different. It's really different because you're there and you're just singing into a mic. But I think now I'd be able to do it better than I did when I was younger and doing that. But I really, what I took from that is I would Jason and Georgia and Lily would all give me notes. Hey, can you do this a little more this way? Because you have to basically plan out what you're gonna do on camera 4 months or a month and a half before you're doing it. It was hard. It was challenging in some ways. And then if you didn't like a choice in the studio, you couldn't change it. So you'd have to go with it in this, and you have to make it your own thing. So that wasn't easy for me, but in the end, I really like how it came out for my numbers. And I really love how 13 came out, especially. I really love the angsty and the, almost like Avril Lavigne, like 2000, like early 2000s Avril Lavigne, like Since You've Been Gone. I love how it kind of came out like that. So I'm really happy with how 13 came out. But other the songs like Homework and Bloodmaster, It Would Be Funny. I really like how they all came out in the end of it all. But it was hard. It was hard.
I mean, I love what you're saying there about that idea of having to essentially make choices for your performance weeks before you're on set and doing
Months
that
before. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what's that experience on the other end once you're getting to filming these scenes on set and you're almost kind of like revisiting, like, did you get a chance to re-listen to what you were doing, or was it kind of playback starting right at the beginning?
Yeah. We, once the pre-records were done, we got all the pre-records in our Google Drives. And I just kept listening to it. I was like, okay, what am I going to do when I do this? What am I going to do when I do that? And when I was on set, there was obviously moments I was like, oh, why did I do that in the studio? And I had to just roll with it. And but there was also moments where I was like, wow, I can do this, and I can go this way. I can be a whole different color. And that was really fun. I liked doing that a lot. That was, I loved the ability of being able to have this flexibility in this like way that usually a lot of people don't. You don't get to sing in in movies a whole lot. You don't see a whole lot of that, and the fact that I was able to do that is really, 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 really cool.
Yeah. And similarly, the choreography as well, it's not how would I as Eli go in and do this dance number? It's how would Evan as a character come into this dance number? And so
that's what's so amazing about all my castmates as well. They're just so good at acting and dancing, which is, mind you, really hard. And I can move. I'm not a dancer, but Nikki and Jamal really, really made me look as good as I possibly could, because I came in and I couldn't do what everyone else could. I mean, I remember watching Nikki and Amanda, who were the assistant choreographers, and they were teaching Bad News, one of the numbers, and I was watching them do some really like crazy move, and everyone there just like, they're like, all right, do this, do that, and then just did it. And I was like, what? I couldn't fathom. I couldn't understand how they did it.
Yeah. And then character-wise as well, you're kind of tasked with creating this arc and creating this journey for this character. And, what's the moment where he kind of starts to understand certain things that he needs to do within himself? How does this influence the dynamic of the friendships and relationships that he's building around him? And so how did you kind of find those different arcs of the journey in terms of like, okay, I feel like he's matured a little bit here, or this experience has happened to him, so this is probably how it would influence him?
Well, I think I read through the script a bunch of times when I was on set. I would always be, thankfully there's an acting coach, Juno, and she would always be like, so right now, she would say, I like how you're doing this, but think about it. This is the end of the movie. This is where Evan has learned what he's learned. This is really, really like, this is the moment where oh no, this is early in the movie. You have to be a nasty car salesman trying to get everyone to buy into your horrible deal. And that was really helpful. So I think in that perspective, I had an easier time than people who wouldn't have an acting coach there to do that. But when it came to certain moments, I would just either dull it down into knowing what I've went through in the movie, or in certain moments where earlier in the movie, thank God we went in a very, very, for the most part, chronological order, because we ended the last day when I wrapped, it was Brand New You. Like that was the last day. And we filmed Homework before a lot of the school scenes, and we filmed some of the stuff in the city before the school scenes. And so it was hard, but at the same time, I was lucky to have an acting coach and be able to read the script a lot.
Yeah, that's a great resource to have there. And,
Mhm.
one of the other elements as well that you almost get to play a little bit comedically at the beginning is,
Yeah.
the preparation for the bar mitzvah as well, alongside Josh Peck, who's your rabbi in the film. Because at the beginning we get to see him absolutely butchering it. And then obviously at the end, he's kind of taken that responsibility on, kind of like given it the time that it needs. And so is really great. And so how did you have kind of fun playing around with those different spaces of, well, what does this look like at the beginning? And how bad is he going to be? What are the types of mistakes that he's going
Mhm.
to be making?
Yeah, I really liked working with Josh because he's so funny. And there's moments where me and him would just improv. There's moments where just like, okay, how can we stay in character and do this way? Oh, okay. And as long as we kept the scene going, it would just look as possibly good as possible. That was what we really went for. But having to ruin it because being a singer and like, oh, singing off key is the most gut-wrenching thing ever. When you hear somebody sing off key and everyone else is in a different key, you're like, you like, my ears are bleeding. And it was really like in actually I had to do some ADR on that because it was like, you're doing this too good. It's on key, make it off key, sing it this way, ooh, do it this way. And we played with a lot of colors, me and Josh. So that was a lot of fun to do that. And especially during like the scenes where we were FaceTiming, we weren't on FaceTime. So that was challenging as well. I had the first Pierre, who was the director, well, assistant director, and he was feeding me the lines. And I had to act on that. I was looking at a blank computer screen. That was definitely one of the first times I've ever done that. And not easy, but that was a lot of fun. I remember really being able to play off of what Josh did because he did it before when he was in Canada, but also being able to play off of what I want to do, kind of finding a middle ground.
And you've mentioned Tamara Davis, the director of the film, a couple of times. And so I also
Mhm.
wanted to talk a little bit about working with her and what did that look like in terms of the way that she would kind of go into conversations before you filmed scenes or talk about certain arcs, with what you were saying as well, with like all of the details that the acting coach was giving you. Imagine that there were also conversations that you were having with her as well along the way.
Oh my God, 100%. She is amazing. She is one of the best. It just incredible. And what happened was every single scene, she'd be like, so, and she'd come over to me. She'd be like, this is where, da, 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 we want to see this. We want to see this moment where you're finding that you don't want this, or where you're finding that you're maturing, you're finding you're becoming a man. And she would always tell me the different colors she wanted to see. And she was really cool with her camera work as well. It was always wide and then closer, closer, close up, and then a not either a wide or just that would be it. And watching her do that and find the little moments where she can edit it all together, because she would talk about the editing. She'd talk about how, oh, she would edit this. I'm gonna edit this like that, and I want this to be like that. It was really really cool to work with her, and she is amazing at what she does.
That's so wonderful. And from the experience of making the film, what were the most challenging aspects, either in terms of just the overall process or in kind of finding certain moments for your character?
Definitely the COVID aspect, that was hard, but I think that when it comes to the actual movie, the choreography for me, because I'm not a dancer. I can move. I like dancing at parties, and like that's what I do. But it was really really cool to work with the greats of choreography. Like Nikki and Jamal are incredible. They are the people you think when we need a good choreographer, we get them. Like um so they it was how they made me look to par, because I mean, Nolan is an amazing dancer and I can't dance like him, but I have to be in a number with him. Or just there was some everyone was a dancer and I was just like, I felt like the only not dancer. And there's a moment at the end of the movie where me and Patrice are having like a little dance and she dips me, and that was completely just Jamal, and we just did that for like 15 minutes, and he was like, trust me, it's not hard, just gotta let it flow. And it works, it really works. And I was surprised when I saw the movie for the first time. I was like, oh my God, That's me. It was also, I was like 4 years younger, but um he really made it. So I looked as good as I possibly could.
It's so great to hear all of those details, and congratulations on everything with the film. And thank you so much for talking about it. Really
Thank
appreciate
you
it.
so much. This was awesome. I appreciate this so much. Have a great rest of your day.